Hi everyone, this is Megzabo69 with Take the Red Pill. Just recently I had some theists over at my house, and I'm not going to name which group they were, but they come knock on my door sometimes, and so I let them in, and we sat down and we spoke. Now, this is not the first time that they've been over my house. They've been over quite some time, a few times, excuse me, but this time I decided to really ask them some more serious questions, because before I was just, really, I felt like I was taking it easy and not really asking them any questions that were, how could I say it? I don't want to say hard questions, but questions I guess I got to the heart of the matter, so to speak. And so one of the first things I wanted to do is establish a baseline on things. And so the first question I asked is, well, who and or what is God, and how do you know he or she or it exists? And so the answers I was given were answers of more of a characteristic nature versus who or what this individual or this thing is, this deity is. So I got answers like, he's all loving, all powerful, and all knowing, things of that nature. So I decided to go with the flow. I did not have a specific topic or agenda I wanted to follow. So I started getting to more pointed questions, like, is he all protecting? Yes. They say, is he all loving? Yes. All the questions I was asking, the answer was yes, because everything I was asking was, is he all whatever it is? And the answer again was yes. Of course, they were good characteristics I was, describing. So as the conversation proceeded, I decided to ask a question. Now, here's the thing. The baseline, of course, should be, first of all, does God exist? And how do we know it? What's the proof of God existing? Now, again, I'm not here to prove or disprove otherwise, but here's the thing. Again, theists are the ones normally making the claim that God does exist. So, of course, the question is going to be, well, where's the evidence or proof of this? Which means the burden of proof is on them to prove their claim. Now, I've stated before, if there's anybody stating out there that they know for sure God does not exist, then that individual, those individuals, have the burden of proof upon them to prove that the negative of God not existing. However, that never will be my stance, because the bottom line is, I really don't know. But the thing is this: if I don't know something truly does exist, just like everything else in life, why should I believe something that I don't know for sure if it's real or not? And if I don't have enough, and if there's not enough evidence, if there's not sufficient evidence to prove the claim of the existence of something, then there's no logical reason to believe in it. That's just logic, reason 101. Anyway, going back to these theists that came over the house. So I went on to, after assessing certain characteristics of this deity, God, I went on to ask a question based upon the answers they gave me. And so I got on the story of Moses, how Moses led the people out of the land of Egypt. Of course, it was God's doing, but it was through Moses. And how, he created a pillar of fire to stop Pharaoh's army. How God parted the Red Sea through Moses to allow the people to pass through, and how when Pharaoh's army was actually coming through the same path, that God drowned them all, killed them. And so that would show that God was protecting of his people. Now, if you go further down the line, what you will find is the Amalekites, they actually got hold of a lot of the Hebrews, and they were sacrificing the babies, brutalizing them, killing them, all sorts of atrocities. And so God allowed that to continue happening for a serious time span. Then down the road, further down the road after that, he turned around and he told the Hebrews to go in there and, to Amalekites, kill all the women, infant, and children. Heck, he even told them to kill the livestock as well. Now let's take a look at that for a second. If God was really all knowing, he would have known that, number one, the Amalekites would have captured the Hebrews, the Hebrew children, infants, sacrificed them, brutalized them, killed them, perform all these atrocities on them. So then that's when his all-powerfulness should have come into play, and he could have stopped it. Instead of allowing it to happen, he could have stopped these innocent children from being slaughtered and from going through these atrocities, because they're innocent, they're babies. What has a 2-year-old baby done to deserve to be slain, to deserve to go through atrocious acts like that? And I've heard many stories. They've come back and they said, well, it was all part of God's plan. If that is the case, that is a sick plan. I've also, heard the excuses of, well, we're not going to know the reason why God does everything. Here's the thing. I don't need to know reason. I don't need to know reason why anybody in their correct moral mind would allow children, especially if you have all the power, if you're all powerful, why would you allow children to be to go through such atrocities? That makes no sense. And so, to me, that almost begs the question of, does God really exist? I mean, an all-powerful, all-benevolent, all good deity would allow such atrocities to happen to especially his own people that he supposedly protected before, and now all of a sudden he's going to turn around and put his hands up and say, I'm not going to protect you anymore. That doesn't make sense. However, I would like to hear if anybody has some type of rational explanation behind all that. The one thing I will say is this: I cannot think of a rational explanation one can give for if you truly all are all powerful to allow children to be brutalized like that. I cannot think of a rational explanation. However, somebody has something to offer. Again, I would love to hear it. Now, further down the line, God tells the Hebrews to go into the Amalekites and slaughter them, women, infant, children. Again, infants? Why? See, and again, I've been given so many excuses for that. But again, it still begs the question, does God really exist? And if he really does exist, it, she, it, whatever you want to call it, does exist, is it really all powerful, all benevolent to allow children to be slain? But this time, it's a little bit different. He did not allow his chosen people or the children to be slain. He told the Hebrews to go in there and actually slay children. Again, what is the rationale behind the notion of it's just to go ahead and kill babies? Now, anybody with morals would turn around and say that is incorrect, it's not right. And I would agree wholeheartedly. But yet, again, like I said, all I'm hearing is excuses to why things like that happen. If anybody has any information out there to shed light on this and other questions that I will be asking down the line, I'll be all ears. Trust me. So here's the thing. A lot of people believe what's written in that book without even questioning anything. They look at it and they say, oh yeah, it must be fine. Or everything in it must be good. And a lot of times they go in there with that presupposition. So when they do read things, it somehow validates what they already thought. And so the better thing to do would be to actually think for oneself. See, there are many people, whether it's other theists who believe the same thing you do, whether they are your lay people, pastors, priests, whatever have you, reverends, or others who are simply, strong believers in the faith. They will have you think that everything is all okay, what you're reading, and that there's a rational reason behind it. Well, people who are not theists do seem to have a tendency to just step back and look at it with a more rational mind. Again, I'm not saying that they are rational, but they seem to look at things, I guess, more logically. I guess that was a better word. And look at the text and say, well, this doesn't make sense, or this is not right, or this is moral, or this is not immoral. And so people always ask and say, who are we to judge God? Well, again, the first thing is this. We would have to establish if God does really exist. But the bigger thing is, from the text, the book that they call Scripture, and they say it's a holy book and it's the inerrant word of God, that there are no mistakes in it or no inaccuracies, they go in there believing even the atrocities that are in that book. Can a God that is so benevolent do these things? I mean, how can one believe in such, in a powerful, all-powerful being with, that will commit these atrocities like that and turn their back? The other thing is this. I heard people this week tell me that the way God does exist and things of that nature. I guess the question I have really is, who has seen God? I mean, according to what I read in the Bible, supposedly Moses saw God, and then people turn around and say, no, he didn't really see God. So, the only one who came close to seeing God was actually Moses in the Bible. Other than that, nobody has seen him. So if you haven't seen God, how do you know he or she exists? Because all we can go off is other people's words in that aspect, which is exactly what people are going off of. I mean, let's think about this for a second. I can come out right now and tell you that this man in a red cape really can fly. And I can pass it on to my children and say, oh, no, don't worry about it. You'll never see him because he flies so fast. And he's invisible as well. That's the reason you never see him. But he actually does exist. And from that point, I can start my own theology, I guess. I can pass it down to my kids, and they can pass it on and on and on. Next thing you know, the word spreads like wildfire. And then next thing you know, you got a religion based upon this character with a red cape that can fly at superhuman speed. Nobody can see him. Was it all true, or was it a fairy tale? It's time for us to start using some logic and reason, and instead of believing what other people say or believing what's written in a book, because the book, again, is just a claim. You gotta believe more so the evidence than you do the claims. And so hopefully people down the road will sit there and open up their minds and think. And when I say think, I mean think for themselves. Not allow people to think for them. This is Major Bull 6'9" with Take the Red Pill. Until next time, until more questions come, we have a good night.